Over the years, there have been several high-profile criminal cases that kept us glued to the TV. There was the O.J. Simpson case. And here in Oregon, there was the saga of Diane Downs.
Tonight, as we look back over the past 50 years of KEZI, we take a hard look at a story that riveted Western Oregon. It had all the lurid drama of a TV movie, and in fact, a movie eventually was made about the case. On May 19, 1983, Elizabeth Diane Downs shot her 3 children. She killed one and then told police a stranger had attempted a carjacking. Here's KEZI 9 News producer Sean Shoppy.
The side panels of the car were covered in blood. There was a young girl in the front passenger seat, another young girl and a small boy, who they could hear gasping for air, in the back. All 3 were soaked in blood. The girl in the back seat, Cheryl, was dead.
What do I see most is blood coming out of Christy's mouth, because that's what I see. I can't see Danny, and I can't see Cher. Sherry was laying on the floor.
Medics quickly went to work on the other 2 children who were still alive, and in what doctors call nothing short of a miracle, both children were saved, despite Christy having been shot in the chest and Danny in the back.
Danny is just crying real soft, so that sound stays in my mind, and the fact that Christy's choking.
Downs told police a shaggy-haired stranger had waved them down. He pulled a gun on them, asked for the keys, and when Downs refused to hand them over, opened fire on all 3 children.
Bang, bang.
Yeah. I'm sure he didn't intend to shoot my arm.
The gun kept firing and firing and firing, and it was monotonous. It just kept going. It was like a slow motion picture. When he swung around, he was pointing, when he swung around, it hit the tips of my fingers. The gun hit the tips of my fingers, and that snapped me, and I went, wait a minute. I'm not trapped by society. I don't care if he is bigger. If I stand here and I say, yeah, here, take the keys. I mean, there's nothing I can do. You win because you have the gun. My kids are gonna die. And I'm not gonna let my kids die. And so instead of giving him the keys, I feigned throwing the keys.
An emergency APB was issued and the manhunt was on.
And who would have a motive to do this, or if it is just some total stranger.
As the night wore on, though, investigators and hospital staff were stunned by Downs' demeanor. She was not hysterical, not crying. She even left the hospital to show investigators the location of the shooting.
He did not take time to point the gun and shoot me, obviously, because he would have shot me the same way he did the kids. When he was swinging in the direction of the keys, firing the gun, he hit my arm. Everybody says, you sure were lucky. Well, I don't feel very lucky. I couldn't tie my damn shoes for about 2 months.
Upon returning, she asked how her kids were doing. The nurse told her doctors were doing everything they could. Downs laughed and said, quote, only the best for my kids. She chuckled again and said, quote, at least I have good insurance. As the days and then weeks went by, investigators had no leads on the shaggy-haired stranger. They were never able to find the murder weapon.
So far, their search has failed to turn up the murder weapon, a .22 caliber automatic pistol.
But what they did have were doubts. Why would a man looking to steal a car shoot 3 kids and not the driver? How did Diane escape with just a bullet wound to her arm?
You always have family as a suspect. That's just simply a matter of course.
And was it possible for Downs to get shot in the arm and never reach over and grab at the wound with the other hand? A hand that when she showed up at the hospital had absolutely no blood on it.
And we're going to clear this case, and the guilty person's going to go to jail. And that's just the name of that game.
Even with all these questions, District Attorney Pat Horton was reluctant to charge Downs. The murder weapon was still nowhere to be found. Danny was paralyzed from the waist down, and the one person who could give a second account of the horrific events of that night had suffered a stroke and wasn't capable of communicating clearly. At least, not yet.
Well, the details just didn't add up, and investigators began closing in. That's the part we'll focus on tomorrow. See what led to Downs being arrested and eventually tried and convicted for the crimes involving her own children.